So there I was in prison. I was there as part of an organization that did restorative justice work, and we were seated among a group of 20 people, all who had committed to doing 2 years of work together on accountability and healing. And the first thing that we do in these circles after covenanting, which you are familiar with, is we make a decision together to go ahead and in detail, for some people for the first time, tell us what happened that day. Now, mind you, these are folks who might have done something that day that ended them up in prison for decades. And for some, they had never told the real story before, because telling the real story would have made it worse on the inside. So there we were, seated in a circle, and everyone very nervous to be the first one to go. And one man, in his late 60s, early 70s, an artist who loves to make holiday cards with marker, he volunteers to go first, and he begins to tell the story of the thing that happened on the worst day of his life. And slowly, as he's telling us in detail, his body is getting smaller, he's leaning over, tears flow down his face as he claims exactly what was his to claim. Now, as he finishes, hunched over, the task of the circle is simple in word and difficult in practice. The task of the circle was to see him and hear him. No other task necessary, simply this, that a person sharing their truth needed to be seen and heard. He begins with each reflection from the community to slowly straighten up, and you can see his tear-strewn face, and for the first time, it was like seeing his real face. Have you ever seen that? Some of us walk around with a little bit of a guard. True? Yes. So for the first time, we are seeing him. He's beautiful. Now, the next month, the task we have is opposite. That month, tell us the story of what happened to you. What happened to you in your life that has been unseen and unattended to? The same gentleman can't do it. He looks at the group, nervous, worried, and he says, I can't. It seems like it goes against everything I did last month to claim my own pain. I can't do it. If I do that, am I not honoring the victim of the crime that I committed? And he sits there. One person in the room, a teacher of mine, looks at him with a kind of realization on her own. And she realizes, saying it out loud to the audience of circle folks, it seems like accountability and healing is a two-step. First step, you're accountable for something. But then after you do that, you kind of need to be fluffed up a bit. You know what I mean by that? Yeah, you know have you ever taken accountability for something? And imagine something that you feel some shame or guilt about. Maybe something that you would hate to have to stand in this group and describe in detail. Think about it. I have some right away. I'm not going to tell you. Not the time, not the sermon. Think about having to stand here and tell us in detail exactly what you did. After you do that, what do you need? You need to be fluffed back up into your dignity. You need to be seen right back into the ways that you are not just someone who impacts others, and in that story had a painful impact, but also you are someone capable of being impacted, and we see it. So she said it like that. You need a little accountability, but then you need a lot of healing. You can't do one without the other. And ever since that moment, it's become clearer to me that healing and accountability and healing is like an in-breath and an out-breath. If we want people to be willing to say, yep, that was me, we also have to be ready to hear the ways they long for our love, our care, and our attention. Now, in this, we are capable of both. To be really human, to be seen as being human, we have to be seen as being able to do both things, cause harm and be caused by harm. We have to be seen by each other as being worthy of being taken seriously for the harms we've done and the harms we've experienced. Now, I don't think this is easy. It's hard work. In my own experience, I've done a lot of harm. Have you as well? Kathy? Kathy, this is the danger of the front row. The Pauls know this. Yeah, I want us to normalize this. Why do I want us to normalize this? Because if we're stuck in believing that I'm only a good person if I don't cause harm, we're living a lie together, and we don't really get to see each other. I don't actually get to see you if I don't get to see you for the ways that you were able to impact another human being, both positively and negatively. And I want to see you. I don't need to see you teacup third grade plastic food. I need the real thing. Do you know what I mean? I want to see you, know you. I don't love you because, in regardless of what you've done, I love you even when you've done it, and maybe I even love you for it. That's the way we want to be together. So in my own life, in my early 20s, I started a nonprofit, and I was working in India with a friend of mine. And this friend of mine and I were so glad we found each other. We were born 1 month apart. We were both really excited about youth and community organizing. We were also really challenged by what it meant to grow up in a globalized world. Both of us were in our late teens at 9/11. Both of us knew that this world was bigger and more connected than it was before, if not more obviously connected. And both of us wanted to refuse the scripts that were being handed to us. We wanted real relationship. Now, in our efforts to start this organization within the first couple years, we were organizing 100 youth, 200 youth, suddenly 500 youth. I was in India working with him. He was coming to the United States to work with me. We were slaying it, as the kids say today. And as we were doing that, we were also causing a lot of harm. Now, it starts off sometimes small. For me, I'm in the United States raising money and in control of the money. Do you see that? Right? And then who gets to say where our funding goes? Which photos did I use to fundraise? Oh, wait, what did we mean by that relationship or that cause? Oh, wait, who got credit for what? Wait, who made that decision? I didn't have enough information about it. I want us to start from the beginning. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar? Yeah. Suddenly, our organization split. Now, I personally was filled with a feeling of guilt and shame. We had started an organization that was devoted to social justice, and we didn't know how to stay in relationship. We split, we went our separate ways, we didn't talk until there I was in prison. There I was in prison, and someone seated in that very circle I told you about says to me, Samantha, who do you need to be accountable to? Tell us the story of your own accountability. Now, when we are in community, ideally like this one, we have 100 mirrors that ask us, are you living the way we say we're living? And in that circle, I realized I was not. Upon leaving, I emailed my friend who said he too, after years of silence, was hungry for a conversation. And being the late 20-somethings we were, I got on a plane and I flew to India for a week. Now there we were in India. How do we amend? How do we take care of something that was both ours and also so much bigger than us? We did what any millennial would do. We went on Facebook. Yes, we went on Facebook. Our entire relationship had been documented via photo on Facebook. And this was the agreement we made. Let's look at our most favorite photos and our most painful photos. You tell me the story of what you remember, and I will tell you the story of what I remember. And for 4 days, we sat in this way, back and forth, telling stories. Now, the reason we were doing that was not to find the one story to rule them all. Our purpose in doing that was to make both of our stories bigger. Do you remember last week, we talked about Indigenous Peoples Day, and we talked about the need to take your truth and open up your palm for the possibility that other truths could fit inside of it. And that is exactly what we were being called to do for one another, is to say, maybe it's possible, maybe I'm capable of it, and maybe this relationship is worth it. That I will open my heart to your truth, knowing you are opening yours to mine. And this is what it means. It means I take your life seriously. And it means you have taken mine seriously. The healing did not come because we set the story straight. The healing came because we made the relationship important. You feel me? Yes. So what do we gather from that? Well, one, obviously, that's hard to do. I think about this community here, and I wonder all about your relationships. Even if you were to peek behind your shoulder or look to the room in front of you, imagining each and every connection you have here, people who have come and gone, people on the edges, people in the pews now, how are the relationships here and now? How are these relationships? How are the relationships in your own life, to your family, to your children, to your neighbor, to the people you call important to you? Could you think of someone like my friend in India that you need to sit down and do a story sharing with? It is difficult to open our palms wider to more truths. It requires certain things we must be willing to do. Are you willing to look at yourself as someone who's capable of impacting others? Are you willing to feel more, not less? Are you willing to feel more about relationships and people that matter to you? Are you willing to risk something changing? Meaning it's no longer just a good enough relationship. Oh, I know him. We have a good enough thing. But are you willing to say, maybe, just maybe, this could be life-giving, you and me? Are you willing to see it change, not knowing where it will go? These are huge risks. Why on earth would we do it? It's absolutely the reason why we don't do it. We much often will satisfy ourselves with what is known, even if it is mediocre, than what could be deeper, more alive, more connected. The thing about conflict or harm when we don't attend to it is that when our bodies are used to experiencing a real or imagined attack, our worlds get smaller. Harm, conflict unattended and ungenerated makes us do this. We see a relationship through this lens. We see a possibility for our church only here. The things that we love become rigid and small. So what we risk when we're willing to engage something that matters to us, even if it shows itself through its pain to us, is we are risking being alive to make ourselves bigger, not smaller. In prison, with the work we used to do, the folks we were working with had caused both violent and sexual harm. And I'll tell you, our goal as a community, as a full circle, was audacious. The goal was not, you've morally cleaned yourself, you've done a really good job, you said all the right things. That was not the goal. The goal was not minimalist relationship. Our goal was this: we want you to be a lover again, a partner again, a father again. We don't aim for the low-hanging fruit. We know we are capable of incredible aliveness, and even more than that, all of us are worthy of incredible aliveness. So do you show up alive in your relationships? Are you showing up alive in this community? Now, as your interim minister, you know some of my work with you for 2 years is to dredge up some of the stuff that you really wish I would not dredge up over and over again at every meeting. But I want to lay this out for you because in the digging up, you have good soil for your future. So let me show you what I'm seeing of why it might be worth attending to what hurts inside of you and between you. You have been through this, a brave decision to leave a building in hopes of a new beginning for a growing church. A series of setbacks as you navigated rental properties that did not fit your needs. A series of setbacks as you navigated potential purchases that did not meet your needs. A pastor, beloved, who experienced a life crisis towards the end of his work with you. A pastor, beloved, who some of you experienced as slowly going away even before he was really gone. A pastor that some of you were not ready to say goodbye to yet, or did not expect to see leave so quickly. For many of you, you are living also, if we were to imagine all of those threads, with the constant question of what does your life mean? What does your death mean? Add another layer. You are living in a contested state on an international border in the midst of a humanitarian crisis. You are living at a time when some of us, not all of us, some of us were already awoken to the things that were going on, but some of us are newly awoken to the issues of racism, white supremacy, and misogyny, and transphobia, and ableism that inform all of our culture. All of that. If you told me you had nothing to be accountable for and nothing to heal from, after hearing all of that, I would tell you you're lying and that you should come to office hours on Thursday. And that you can sign up online and wait till make sure you get the email confirmation because that's how you know it really went through, okay? Do you hear that? So I want to normalize for you that absolutely there is something within each of us to be accountable for, and there is something within each of us aching to be healed. So there you all are, doing all of that in church. I want and pray as we work together that we are not just getting through something. I think we could aim higher than that. I want you to imagine that your aliveness is not dependent on the building and is not dependent on the pastor, although sometimes we make it easier. Return to the original image I shared with you of that circle of men inside prison. That beloved friend and teacher of mine with tears in his eyes was not liberated because he left the prison that day, although he should be allowed to leave and prison should be abolished. That's not why he was liberated that day. That dear man was liberated because he risked showing all of himself to a people who said, I'll show you myself back. He was willing to say, let me tell you the full story. And they were a people that said, tell us and we'll love you deeper. That is what we do here. It's what we can do here. Not third grade plastic teacup tea party aliveness, but real food aliveness, real nourishment aliveness, aliveness that takes each other seriously. What are we waiting for? May it be so. In the spirit of that aliveness, you each have a journal. And if you don't, Tom will bring you one, or Conrad will. Here's what I want to invite you to as Susan plays some music for us. Those of you who enjoy writing can follow this prompt. Those of you who like to sit and listen can sit and reflect. The question is long, so hear it first, and then I'll say it again for you to take notes. What needs healing in you that you might show up alive here? What needs healing in you that you might show up alive here? It's a two-parter, watch out. Second, what would you need to be accountable for there to be healing in others? What would you need to be accountable for there to be healing in others? What needs healing in you for you to be alive here? And what do you need to be accountable for there to be healing in others?